Super Mario World was developed by Nintendo Entertainment Analysis and Development, or Nintendo EAD as it's more commonly known, and was released on November 21st, 1990 in Japan, August 13th, 1991 in North America, and April 11th, 1992 in Europe. It is heralded by many as the best game for the SNES and one of the best games ever made for any console, period. These claims are backed up by Super Mario World's #1 position on the game sales ranking for the SNES, selling a whopping 20 million copies worldwide. That's more than double that of the third place game, and another game said to be one of the best ever made, Rare's Donkey Kong Country. However, Super Mario World was packed in with many Super NES consoles, so that data is a little biased. I can't speak as to which game is objectively the best game for the SNES, but through this review I'll try to give you a good idea of the positives and negatives of Super Mario World, so you can form your own opinions on the game. But without further ado, let's get into it. The game starts out very similarly to the beginning of Super Mario Sunshine, with Mario, Luigi, and Princess Toadstool going on an island vacation because they're tired from the events of the previous game, Super Mario Bros. 3. So of course the island they decided to take their relaxing vacation on is inhabited almost exclusively by dangerous prehistoric dinosaurs. And we know that always works out great for everyone, right? Run! However, surprisingly the dinosaurs aren't the main problem here. It is of course our old friend Bowser. While everyone is relaxing on the beach, he swoops in and kidnaps Princess Toadstool yet again, whisking her away to his castle. Mario and Luigi, knowing the drill by this point, rush off after Bowser to save the princess. On their way, they bump into a nice dinosaur trapped in an egg named Yoshi, who says he'll help them because Bowser and his Koopalings took away his friends too. Their goals align, the three set off to save Princess Toadstool and the other Yoshi from the evil Koopa. If you've ever played a Mario game, you've probably heard a very similar story setup before, as they are almost all identical, but this was the first game in the series to introduce a companion story through the use of Yoshi and his friends, a plot we see very often these days in games like Super Mario Odyssey with Cappy, or Super Mario Sunshine with Flood and the Delfinos. It's not a groundbreaking story by any means, but it did change up the old Mario formula just enough to make it a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. I don't know about you, but I don't usually play Mario games for the story, I play them mostly for the gameplay, so let's move on to that. Like most other 2D Mario games, Super Mario World is of course a side-scrolling platform-style game, and like those other Mario games, we have the typical Mario moveset consisting of a jump and a run, but this time around Nintendo introduced a third move to the formula, namely the spin jump. Probably because I didn't really play any Mario games with the spin jump as a kid, I constantly found myself forgetting about it. There isn't really any time where you need to use it, so I guess it's not that big of a deal, but I feel like they could have put in a few sections that made better use of it throughout the game, so I wouldn't completely forget that the move exists. Mario can also pick up objects in this game such as Koopa shells, bob-ombs, and springs. He can then throw them up or to the sides to hit enemies or place them on the ground in front of him by hitting down. I also didn't use this one too much, but it definitely came in handy here and there. Also similar to other games in the series, Mario can pick up various power-ups that can help him progress through the level. These include the classic Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and the new power-up added in Super Mario World, the Cape Feather. If you're familiar with the Tanuki suit from Super Mario Bros. 3, it's a lot like that. If you hold the jump button down after a normal jump, it slows your descent, making it easier to land, and if you jump out of a full-speed run, you will fly up high into the sky. You can also perform a cape attack that is very similar to the Tanuki suit's tail attack. The only real difference here is in the way you descend after flying, in that you fall much faster than the Tanuki suit and have to move Mario up and down to stay in the air. Personally, I prefer the Tanuki suit, but that's just my personal opinion. We also have another new power-up per se in the form of the Yoshi eggs Mario can find in many of the levels. When found, the eggs will hatch and grow into a full-size Yoshi that Mario can ride to help him defeat enemies and progress through the level. Yoshi can use his tongue to lick up almost any enemy, as well as stomp on and even kill some of the enemies that would normally damage Mario. For some reason, Yoshi also takes no damage from almost all non-enemy hazards that he jumps on, including things like buzzsaws and spikes. Must be those sick kicks he's always wearing. This honestly makes him super overpowered in my opinion, making a lot of the more difficult sections of certain levels almost trivial to clear. But that's not all. Yoshi can also lick up Koopa shells and gain powers from them based on the color, essentially giving him his own set of power-ups. The red shell lets him shoot out 3 fireballs, the blue shell lets him fly, the yellow shell makes him emit dust clouds that kill nearby enemies, and the flashing shells give him all 3 abilities. However, green shells do not give him any power-up whatsoever. If you do manage to take damage while on Yoshi, he doesn't even go away instantly. He runs around giving you another chance to jump on and ride him. He's just so overpowered in every way, and I don't really understand why. They could have just picked 1 or 2 of these really strong abilities and just gone with that, but since they went with all of them, it makes the game really easy when you are riding him. Now that doesn't mean the game isn't fun. In fact, I really enjoyed my time with Super Mario World, and like most other Mario games, I really like the mechanics of the game. I just thought it could have used a little more difficulty. Speaking of difficulty, another mechanic that makes Super Mario World slightly easier is the ability to store power-ups. When you currently have a power-up and pick up a second one, your first power-up gets stored in a box at the top of the screen. You can then choose to drop it at any time to switch power-ups, or if you take damage it will automatically fall, letting you collect another power-up instantly. Not really a necessary feature in my opinion, as it just makes the game even more easy than it already was, but I guess it's not that big a deal. It's there if you need it. I think that just about wraps up the core mechanics of the game, so let's move on to the levels. Similar to Super Mario Bros. 3, in Super Mario World, we see the use of an overworld map that we have to make our way through in order to get to Bowser's Castle at the end. This time around, the map is divided up into 7 different worlds of varying themes. At the end of each world, we are faced with one of the Koopaling's castles where Yoshi's friends are being held captive. One thing I did find odd was that even though the whole reason Yoshi agreed to come with us was to save his friends, when we get to the castle where they are being held captive, he refuses to come inside. You have to do these parts as Mario alone. I understand they wanted to make the castles a little bit harder by not letting you ride Yoshi, but it just didn't make sense from a plot standpoint and always felt a little weird. Also, every time Mario beats one of the Koopalings, he completely destroys their castle. Like, completely destroys them. He blows them up with dynamite on multiple occasions. I really like these funny little scenes at the end of each world. It always gave me a little chuckle when I saw how Mario decided to take out the castle each time around. But getting back to the levels, in classic Mario fashion, the goal of each level is to get to the flagpole. In this case, more of a gate or almost like a track and field high bar. In order to get to these goals, we have to run, jump, and platform our way through each level without losing all our lives. For Super Mario World, if you do happen to lose all your lives, you don't have to restart the whole game. You just have to start from the last time you saved, which you do get to do quite often. I personally am not a fan of replaying content I already cleared for no reason, so this is a very welcome change in my opinion. In general, there are 4 types of levels in Super Mario World: normal levels, water levels, ghost house levels, and of course boss castles. Each type presents its own unique challenges to the player, making for a very fun and varied experience that doesn't get old even after playing through the entire game in one sitting like I did. The ones that set out from the crowd in my opinion were the ghost house levels because they had you approach a Mario level in a much different way than you're used to. Contrary to a normal level, ghost house levels are more almost puzzle focused levels. Typically you have to find some sort of hidden switch or door in order to find your way out. They can get a little annoying when you just can't find the exit after 10 or so minutes of looking around, but the variety they bring to the game far outweighs this in my opinion. It's a Mario game, so of course the other types of levels are very well designed and fun as well. With Super Mario World, Nintendo decided to add in so many new enemies and tools to the Mario franchise, and they honestly had me surprised on a lot of occasions. Take for example the first level in the game. The first enemy you run into doesn't look like anything we've seen in the Mario series up to this point, and that really caught me off guard. I was honestly second guessing if I was playing the right level or not, because the purple dinosaurs that I kept running into weren't Goombas. The levels were such a big departure from previous games in many ways, and I applaud Nintendo for that. Moving on to visuals, I'd be lying if I said the game didn't look good. It's the most colorful Mario game in the series up to this point. It was the first Mario game on the SNES, so the graphics were obviously the best in the series at the time, and the art direction makes for a fun-looking and overall interesting world. That being said, I did find it a little jarring when I first booted up the game, because it reminded me a lot of the way old phone games used to look. Nintendo obviously didn't know what smartphone games that would come out years after this game release would look like, so it's definitely not their fault. I just wanted to mention that because it's the first thing I thought when I started up the game. But phone game or not, I really like the way the game looked from start to finish. In particular, the designs for a lot of the new enemies and set pieces made a really good impression on me, and I think it's a real shame that a lot of them have never been brought back in a later Mario game. My favorite enemy was probably the Triceratops guys that blow fire at you because they're just so unique and cute. Like a lot of the other new enemies in Super Mario World, the designs of the Triceratops guys made the level they appear in very memorable and a ton of fun to play. If there's one group of characters I didn't really like the designs of, it would definitely be the Koopalings. They just look really boring in my opinion, and I'm glad they changed them for the later games. But overall, a very colorful and fun game visually. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the music of Super Mario World. The entire soundtrack was composed by Kondo Koji, the man I'm sure many Nintendo fans are familiar with. Kondo Koji is the guy responsible for some of the greatest and most iconic soundtracks in video game history, like the Super Mario Sunshine soundtrack or the Ocarina of Time soundtrack. His work on Super Mario World is of course no exception. The game features for the most part arrangements of the Super Mario Bros. 3 soundtrack, which could be considered a bad thing, but I didn't really mind it. The SNES allows for the use of many more instruments and sounds at once when compared to the old NES, so all the tracks feel completely different to those of Super Mario Bros. 3 in my opinion. Kondo said that he used similar themes for Super Mario Bros. 3 for Super Mario World because he wanted the player to recognize the old melodies while exposing them to new variations of music as they played through the game. And I think he did a really good job with this. The soundtrack feels distinctly Mario at its core, but with a little extra flair thrown in to connect the music to Super Mario World's Dinosaur Island setting. Getting to hear all the great music as I play through the game is one of my favorite parts of playing a Mario game, and Super Mario World definitely didn't disappoint. If you're looking for a very fun and upbeat soundtrack, then Super Mario World is just the game for you. Now onto the boss fights. As I stated earlier in the review, we have one Koopaling in each world, followed by the final boss fight with Bowser at the end of the game. The Koopalings all share the same win condition, just jump on their head 3 times. For the most part, they each have their own unique boss fight, but there are some that reuse other mechanics from the previous Koopalings. Honestly, the fights were not that exciting to begin with, and with the addition of recycled content, they almost got to the point of boredom. Definitely not one of the highlights of the game in my opinion. I'm sure you can tell by now, but I am not really a big fan of the Koopalings. Unfortunately, the final boss of the game, Bowser, wasn't that much more difficult. He did of course have his own win condition in that you have to throw his Mecha back in order to damage him, but the fight was almost insultingly easy for a final boss fight. I beat Bowser on my first visit to his castle, and honestly I wish it took me more time than it did. It wasn't a bad fight by any means, it was just way too easy. I understand the game was geared towards children, but that doesn't mean you have to make it this easy. Plenty of games aimed at kids are fun and difficult to beat, like Super Mario 64 or the older Pokemon games. I guess I was just looking for a bit more of a challenge with Super Mario World, but in the end I can't say that I didn't have fun. Last but not least, I'd like to talk a little bit about the secrets of Super Mario World, and oh boy, there are a lot. In a lot of the regular levels, you can find a key that goes in a keyhole in the same level that will instantly take you out of the level and unlock a secret path to previously unreachable levels. This is honestly one of the coolest parts of the game in my opinion. I really enjoy searching for hidden collectibles in games, and this felt a lot like that. There are even some hidden paths that will lead to a star panel that you can use to access the Star World. If you find all the secret exits in the Star World, you create sort of a warp zone where you can easily travel around the overworld. It's actually really cool. Also, there is one last extra hidden exit found in Star World 5 that leads you to the Special Zone. The Special Zone is a long series of the hardest levels in the game. I said earlier I was looking for more challenge, and I definitely got it with these levels. I would have liked if the difficulty of the Special Zone was carried over to some of the later levels of the main game, but I guess that's asking for too much. When you do manage to clear all the Special Zone, the overworld map changes to a fall theme. A really cool little extra in my opinion. The secrets and extras that the developers jam-packed into this game were probably my favorite part about Super Mario World, so if you plan on giving it a try in the future, I definitely recommend you try to find them all. Well, that pretty much wraps up this video. Super Mario World is a game I've always wanted to beat at least once, so I'm super happy I finally got the chance to play it all the way through. That's honestly one of the greatest things about starting this YouTube channel. I get an excuse to play all the games I've always wanted to try. And I'll be doing the same thing next week too, so if you're interested, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ack out.